How we all getting along today? Well, another somewhat successful annual filling of the freezer is coming to an end, getting everything cleaned up and put away. I thought I'd share some things with you. I'm well known for being, let's say, thrifty person. Just never like to spend a whole lot of money unless I absolutely have to. So when we started processing deer, my son, my daughter, and I, wife used to help out. We ground up our meat in the kitchen with one of them hand sausage grinders that belong to Grandma. You can pick them up in any antique store. But boy, that was a family bonding time, I would guess you would say. But it took forever. So the local farm store had in their ad this number 32 grinder. It was originally set up to turn by hand, which it took a pretty hoss person to turn that thing by hand. But we did that for a few years. We had it mounted to a board, and we'd set it there on the kitchen counter and clamp it down with some C-clamps and go to town. And we would just grind into a tub. And as far as being thrifty, I never broke down and bought fancy tubs. I get my tubs at Dollar General. A few bucks a piece. The meat don't stay in them long enough to worry about. I keep them cleaned up with bleach in between uses. I've never had any trouble, never gotten sick, so I don't think I need all that fancy stuff. But back to the old grinder. So we was packaging that, wrapping each package by hand. And I knew there had to be a better way. And I came across these ground bags at the local farm store. They started carrying them. So I picked up some of them. And I built me a stuffer nozzle for this thing where I was just packaging them straight off the grinder out of PVC pipe. Wasn't one of my better ideas, but it worked. So I actually looked up the LME company. There's its information. And had them send me a catalog to tell you how long I've had this thing. They sent me a paper catalog with their products in it. And so I broke down and bought one of their aluminum stuffer nozzles. Works really good. Those bags, you can buy them at your local store, but when I bought these a few years ago, it hadn't been all that long ago, but you could buy 1,000 of them for 42 bucks. That's a heck of a lot cheaper than you can buy them at your local store. They sell them 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound. I mainly use the ones, and then I make a few 3-pounders up for making chili and what have you. So my little grinder here, this is the last evolution. If you see, she's mounted to a barbecue grill frame. Grandpa had passed, and they threw that in the ditch. And so that got salvaged. And I beefed it up, put a little heavier shelving on it, just put some, 3/4 inch pine on it, top and bottom, stiffened it all up real good. The grinder and the motor is mounted to a piece of 12-inch bridge channel iron. Not real heavy, probably 1/4 inch thick, but it gives it a little weight. Makes it easier to, tighten the belts up and what have you. Nothing fancy for tightening the belt. I just welded a piece of angle iron on there, and I wedged me a pry bar in there to keep the belt tight. The old motor, I traded an old boy a case of beer for that. That was one of my better bargains I've made. For a while, we ran it with just the switch, and that was rather inconvenient, off and on, and probably wasn't the safest thing in the world. Well, I found a junked out pipe threader, a rigid pipe threader with a pneumatic switch on it, to be used in wet areas. And not that this thing gets super wet, but that made sense to me. So I salvaged the pressure switch and the little plunger there out of it and put that on the grinder. I'll just show you a little quick one how it works. Works just fine. As your tube gets full, you just take your foot off of it. Real handy if you got somebody else stuffing the meat in it for you. Keep your fingers away from it. But we've been using this thing for quite a few years now. Pretty proficient. Works really well. Well, I'm getting ready to package this thing up. One other thing, I do keep it coated down during storage with a little bit of olive oil cooking spray. Just keeps everything from getting any rust on it. Keeps everything lubed up. Same way it's got a bearing inside. Got some actual ball bearings. I lube them up with it each time before I use it. And then after I clean them, I lube them up again just to make sure they don't rust. Well, if you thought this was interesting or enlightened you to try it on your own, let me know about it. Like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Let me know how your filling of the freezer went. You all have a good one. Thank you.